This episode of What the Tech is brought to you by Braintree. If you're searching for the right payment API, Braintree makes it easy to support multiple mobile payment types with one simple integration. To learn more and to try out their sandbox, go to braintreepayments.com/podcast.
What the tech?
Hey everybody, welcome to What the Tech. I'm Andrew Zarian, back in Queens, New York. Last week I was broadcasting from LA, from Epcot Center, according to many of our viewers. It's really bright in there and colorful. It's a lot of fun broadcasting from there. And of course I'm joined by Paul Thurrott. How you doing, Paul?
Pretty good.
Rough start today, huh?
Yeah. Wish I had figured this out yesterday. I think it hasn't been working for 24 hours. So
yeah, I had a feeling there was something going on. I sent you an email and I didn't see you. We share usually like
on it.
Yeah,
you know?
I usually see, like, even if you're not putting in show notes, I see like you're looking at it.
Sure.
So I was like, that's a little weird. I haven't seen anything in there, and I sent it at like 9 o'clock. But but everything is fine now. Well, not really. Not really. We'll pretend everything is fine now.
We're just gonna move past it. Is what we're gonna do.
We're recording the show on Thursday today. Paul was traveling early in the week, and next week the schedule is gonna be wonky because it's Christmas. So we're gonna no, we're not affected next week. Tuesday.
Yep.
So we're fine next week. The following week we're fine. So hopefully nothing is going to change until the week that you have to go to the Microsoft event.
Actually, the week of New Year's, I'm going to be in Petaluma.
So what day is that?
So maybe we could do it that Friday.
Okay.
Or something. I don't know.
That works for me. I'm easy.
I'm not sure what my schedule is, but I think
it's a little overwhelming this time of year, right?
Yep.
So today what we're going to do, we're going to go through the worst of 2014. We do this every year. A lot of people like this. And we require a lot of chat participation during the show because we like to look at what you guys thought was the worst. And, we bring it up during the show. What I think is the worst may not be what you think is the worst. And a lot of these things are the worst because I was expecting more or I was expecting something. And I'm not saying that they're total crap. I'm just saying.
We're not like making fun of them like we might with, say, BlackBerry or Yahoo or something like that.
Yeah.
Amazon Fire Phone. Actually, that should have made the list. Was that
that's
on
on mine. That's on
I'm
mine.
sorry.
Yeah, which we'll talk about that.
Okay.
But what we do, we pick things that we were disappointed in, and then we discuss why we thought it sucked.
Yeah.
Pretty simple. And you guys can part already. People are suggesting stuff in the chat room.
This should have been a drinking show. It's too early in the day, but
not for me. Not for... Today I'm pulling back. I have to go to my wife's holiday party tonight. And I told him, like, I'm not drinking tonight because the last, 4 nights we've been going out and getting, bombed every night and then stumbling home. So tonight is my off night. And this is coffee in the mug, by the way, guys. So before we go into our list, I want to talk about a sponsor, and that's Braintree. They've been with us for a couple weeks. And a lot of you guys, I was so surprised to see how many of you guys are interested in things like this. And it's amazing the feedback that I get and the issues that you guys tell me with products, current methods that you guys are using. And when we bring something up like this as an advertiser, it's amazing to see the feedback that we get from people to say, hey, I didn't know about this company. I checked them out. They were great. So what is Braintree? Braintree is code that makes easy online payments. It makes it super simple. If you're a developer or a product manager searching for the right payment API, you got to check out Braintree. So what they do, they support all types of payment methods, so you don't have to use different types of services. Everything from Apple Pay, PayPal, Bitcoin, all the major credit cards and debit cards, 130 global currencies. They make it super easy, and the code is so tiny. It's just a tiny snippet of code, and you're all set up within 10 minutes. If you're having issues with them, no problem. You could call them up. They'll literally hold your hand over the phone, literally just put their hand through the phone, hold it, and guide you through it, and you're done within a couple of minutes. They do 7 different types of languages. It's only 10 lines of code. It's super elegant, super easy, and they have a phenomenal offer for you guys. If you go to braintreepayments.com/podcast, that's braintreepayments.com/podcast, You could sign up there, and the first $50,000 of transactions are fee-free. You don't have to pay a fee with this. Really cool company. Really interesting that everything is all in one with this, rather than having to pick and choose different ones. BraintreePayments.com/podcast. They're also a PayPal company. And the other thing that's really good is super secure. I forgot to mention this a couple of weeks ago, and I thought this was a big selling point. Braintree is known for their back-end security and merchant protection, so you never have to worry about fraud if you ever get hacked. Braintree has you covered with that. They use tokens to do secure payment information, so the user credit card info is never passed on to the merchant server. So it's actually extremely safe. BraintreePayments.com/podcast. I want to thank Braintree for supporting What the Tech. They've been with us a couple of weeks, and it's really interesting company. Good stuff that they're doing over there. Paul, we talked about a good company. Let's talk about the bad. Braintree is not on this list, but let's talk about the year that was 2014. I feel like in prior years that we did this, we went in there angry.
Yep.
Like
this was a good year.
This was actually a good year.
I think we should say that right up front, because a lot of people are going to say, "Oh, you guys are so negative," blah blah blah, whatever. Honestly, this is a good year, and whether you're talking about it from like I would, kind of a Microsoft coverage perspective, I mean, a lot of good news on the Microsoft side, or just general tech. I mean, I think overall, good year.
It was you know what? It wasn't an innovative year. Right? Like, I wouldn't say that we had... I think what made other years, like, so volatile, like, we had the best and we had the worst, is because so much stuff was happening. Right? Like, we got the iPad one year. We got Windows 8 one year. We got all these big things. And this year was kind of, okay, let's grow.
About maturity, about pulling it together.
Yeah, so... on my list, the number one thing that I'm still complaining about is fragmentation within the Android ecosystem. And Paul
Which is awesome.
And Paul messaged me. He goes, "What would you write? I gotta read this."
I said, "If Android fragmentation doesn't make your list, I'm not going to be able to sleep tonight." And he's like, "It's on my list." I guess apparently it's in the number one position.
It's in the number one position. And we were talking about this, and we were talking about the inconsistencies within Android. And you're going to have that when the platform is so big. Let's compare it to Windows, where if you buy a Windows laptop, one is going to be totally different than the other one. So it's not really this fair comparison when you compare the ecosystems to even Windows Phone or iOS. But in general, my issue is the problem with me is that not the hardware, because I think there are some beautiful, phones out there. And listen, I'm an Android user. So, I experience this on an everyday basis. It's the inconsistency from the software side. So I was taking a picture. It was kind of lit. It was a bar. My bar has a stocking hung up for Jess and I in the back. So it has our name and has GFQ. So I have my LG G2. I have my my OnePlus. My friend has an S5. And Jess had the iPhone 5. I took the same exact photo on every single one. Every single one of the Android phones, which have apparently really good cameras, and they do when you finesse it. It was totally overexposed. I mean, it blew the thing up. The iPhone, I just took it 1 second. I snapped the photo.
Yeah.
Why can't there be a consistent flow when you're doing things on Android? That's my issue.
No, well, look, it's the same problem we've seen on Windows for decades, which is the unfortunate truth is when you go the partner route, like you did with Android, like Google did, you have lots of different hardware types, lots of different camera sensors. In this case, it's just a different kind of ecosystem. I think one of the prime benefits about the Apple stuff, and it's also one of the prime negatives, is that one company controls everything, and it allows them to do this kind of thing where it just works exactly right. On the other hand, you have no choice at all. It only works that one way. And so, if you, whatever, but the, iPhone is, I think the number one benefit of the camera, because the iPhone 5, 5S, 6 cameras are all kind of in the top 5 for camera quality across smartphones, I would say, or in the top 10, certainly. They're up there.
Well, I think it's the most consistent. I mean, the iPhone is the most consistent camera.
That actually puts it over the top is the reliability, the consistency, and the speed. I think the speed of the iPhone 6 camera or in particular, but let's say the iPhone camera, is more important than superstellar camera quality to most normal human beings.
Absolutely.
Right? So even though I would say, look, the Lumia 1020 is the best camera, the Lumia 1520 and Icon and 930 are like just a step right up there. They're slow, and they're not as fast as the iPhone. And I think for most people, they're not professional photographers or whatever. The results you get in fully automatic mode in an iPhone are both quick and very high quality, and that's what people want.
And the argument here will be, and I guarantee I'm going to get this email, well, most people don't really care, Andrew. They don't use their camera like you do, probably. And this is where the problem was. I went and I did MMA training over my trip in California.
MMA training?
Mixed martial arts.
Dear Christ.
I fought. I went to Boss Rutan's. I was
trying to imagine what realm this might be within.
Yeah.
I guess
I went to Boss Rutan's
thinking more broadly,
gym.
I might have come up with
this guy is a world famous fighter, and I was trained by this guy Randy Katami, which is a famous trainer. I did like a 2-hour training. He kicked my butt the entire time. It was amazing. So afterwards, he had these title belts on. I'm like, you know what? Can you take a picture of me with the title belts? He goes, no problem. Gave him my phone. It took 14 shots to get this thing to work. I finally had to go over, tap on the most bright, like the brightest area that it was, seeing, or like a piece of white anywhere on this photo, and for it to focus in and to take the photo. Yeah. He used his phone.
This is the LG G3?
No, this is the OnePlus, which has a better camera. Okay. He used his iPhone. He's like, you know what? We finally give up. He used his iPhone. Boom, one shot, done.
Yeah.
That's the issue here. You could probably get a better picture with an Android phone. It's possible.
I've been using, I mentioned you via text messaging. If you're or whatever, we were using Skype or whatever. If you're using Android, at least try the Google Camera app. It's the default on Nexus devices now, I think, but it's just something you get in the Google Play Store. It has turned the Nexus 5 camera from an absolute piece of junk into something that is actually truly excellent. And I don't know if that will help you as much on that camera. I'm not sure, but that's something everyone should try. But I have the same issue. I mean, I use a low-end Lumia phone, and I really like the phone. But man, when you go to take a picture, it's the worst. You launch the camera app and you wait. You want to just take that picture, and on this, on this low-end device, in particular, it's a painful process. And you can even do something like, you tap the little icon that is to go to the camera roll, and you pull your finger away, and the icon has lit up because it has registered the touch.
Yeah. But
nothing changes. And then a second goes by, and another second goes by, and then the camera roll opens up, and it's like, guys, seriously. It's so slow.
And listen, I'm hoping that on Android 5.0, these issues are fixed. But guess what?
It's hilarious that you think that's a possibility.
But guess what? Nobody has it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you have a Nexus device, you can have it.
If you have the Nexus 6.
Well, Nexus 5 has it now.
Does it really? You have it?
Wait, does it? Yes, it does. Yeah, because I have it.
Okay.
I didn't do any kind of weird side load thing. It got it legitimately.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
I wonder why none of my phones have it. So, I don't know. But that's my issue. It's disappointment with the software more than anything else, and the inconsistency from, a Samsung S5 and the LG G3 and the OnePlus, which are virtually all the same device, right? I mean, it's very close. Everything is very, very close, but there is a tremendous difference amongst all of them, and it doesn't really come down to the hardware because the hardware is probably decent. It all comes down to the way the software is done. And that's my issue with it.
Yeah.
That's my issue with Android.
By the way, that relates to something I said earlier, which is that you can take the same hardware on multiple devices, and the manufacturer of the device may change the software, and it's a goofy thing on Android in general. We all know Samsung and HTC have their own skins and whatever, but they can really change the features of what's available in the camera app, right? On the iPhone, obviously there are going to be differences between models that come out year after year because new things happen, but in general, that camera app in iOS 8 is extremely consistent across phones. The Lumia camera app that we have in Windows Phone is not consistent. Well, the general UI is, but the capabilities and the options you see are going to vary from device to device because there's so many devices.
Yeah. So, Paul, what do you have on your list? I mean, listen. By the way, this is not. I have this as number
Yeah.
one, but it's not my number one complaint. What
Oh, I
what
see.
is yours?
So my number one complaint is, and I don't know if you can show that picture without showing the text around it, because I tried to separate it so you didn't give
Hold
away
on.
any of the other pics.
I'll pull it up here.
But it is the lack of new Lumia flagships from Microsoft this year on the Windows Phone front. Microsoft has correctly identified the low end of the market as its volume play, the one place that maybe it's going to see some form of success in the market. The problem is the types of tech enthusiasts who will promote this platform are rightfully agitated that we haven't seen a real Lumia flagship in over 6 months internationally, although that particular device, the 930, has some issues. And in the United States, we haven't seen one since the Icon, which came out in very early 2015. And if you're on AT&T, the last flagship was the 1520, which came out probably October, November, and is a phablet. So if you don't want a phablet and you're on AT&T, which is the volume of Windows Phone users in the United States, you haven't seen a real flagship since July
That's
2013.
tremendous. That's tremendous.
15 years ago. Long time.
Why is that? Why do you think that is? Is it because they're making a lot of money based on the low end ones and they're selling a lot of volume? So they're like, why bother with the high end?
Those are literally the only devices that sell. Nokia has only made one flagship phone on Windows Phone that sold well. That was the Lumia 920. That came out 2 years ago, over 2 years ago. I want to say with Windows Phone 8.0. One of the reasons that the lack of a new flagship, in particular an AT&T, which by the way is where the 920 debuted in the United States, is that those guys are all coming off contract now, right? And if they want to upgrade to a new Windows Phone, what is their choice? Their choice is a year-old phablet or a 15-month-old phone that right now has really middling specs because it's a mid-2013 phone that wasn't that much newer. It has a much better camera, but it isn't that much newer than what they had already. That's a problem. And I understand that 90% of Windows phones that will be sold over the next year or whatever are going to be these low-end devices. And God knows they've spewed them out like chiclets. They're everywhere. There's so many models.
But these low-end devices, Paul, are selling because they're unsubsidized and they're inexpensive.
Yep.
That's the only reason why they're selling is because of the price point.
No, I understand. But they need the aspirational device. They need that high-end device. In other words, when someone walks into a Mercedes dealership, they may want the S-Class. They may want,
there you go,
some other expensive vehicle. But what they end up buying is a CLA because it starts at 30 grand, or maybe a C-Class, which probably starts around 40 grand or a little under 40. Not the 65,000, not the 85,000, not the 100,000, because we're normal people. But you aspire to that higher end phone. I mean, I think one of the nice things about the Lumias is that by and large, with a few exceptions, they're all actually very high quality devices for the price that they sell at and the segment of the market that they target. And that's nice because you don't want to talk down to people with product. Like, sorry, you're so poor. Here's a piece of crap.
Yeah.
But it's nice to have that aspirational device where it's a true flagship. It's a high end device. The people who do love Windows Phone and can afford those devices will buy them and will talk about them to others. Will advocate them to others, whether they want to hear it or not, that kind of thing. And I just think they're missing out. I mean, it's not, in issues of money, there's not always a direct correlation between, well, we made X amount of dollars and we're successful. And yeah, maybe this thing's a loss leader, but you still need to have them in the market. It's important. It's important for perception. It's important for the people, even though they may be small, who are influential, that this stuff matters to.
Do you think the people that are buying these lower end Lumias will commit to the ecosystem and slowly upgrade to the higher and higher and higher model?
Well, okay, so that's the hope. And like I said, I mean, one of the nice things, I haven't seen too many low end Android phones. I have like a Moto G from last year. I didn't get one of the newer ones. And I know there's a Moto E now, and I'm sure there are other devices like that, Android One type devices that are inexpensive. So I can't really compare them, but I can say that from the perspective of Windows Phone, with one or two exceptions, even the really low end devices are actually very high quality. So if you go get a Lumia 635 for $99.99 at Boost Mobile or whatever, if you pick up a Lumia 735 from wherever, I think Verizon early next year, These are really nice devices, really nice. And so I think someone like that, yes, and maybe they trade up next time even. I think they're going to have a really good experience. I think the really bottom of the bucket type stuff, like a Lumia 520 or these like kind of, they're almost like burner phones, the smartphone version of a burner phone. They're so cheap, it doesn't really matter. I don't think people are going to get as attached to the phone. People hopefully get attached to the services. I think one of the things that happens with Windows Phone is people will back up to OneDrive. Their photos are all there. And so maybe next time you do go Android. Yeah. But you want to stick with OneDrive because that's where your pictures are, and you can back those up from Android as well. And maybe that's more important to Microsoft than the actual device. But it's kind of a dead end to rely on the very low end of the market because there is no brand enthusiasm there because the devices, frankly, aren't all that interesting. Yeah. And it's sort of like the issue I was talking with Mary Jo yesterday on Windows Weekly about, bundling a free copy of Office 365 on the very cheapest devices, when in fact you should be rewarding the people who are spending money. Nobody is going to run Office 365 or Office 2013 on a 7-inch Windows tablet with no resources at all. That's stupid. But you sell someone a $1,500 or $2,000 Surface, and they don't get a free copy of Office 365. Really? Yeah. I mean, that's insane to me. But that's the market.
It's interesting. Another way to look at it is you're flooding the ecosystem with these lower end devices. People are buying it, and it's a great way to entice developers to start developing because they're going to look at the numbers and say, well, look, year over year, we're doubling and tripling our numbers. I don't know what the exact numbers are.
And the high quality apps that appear will maybe keep some people from leaving next time or whatever. Yeah, no, it's a virtuous cycle if it's done right. I will just say that the issue for Microsoft so far has been, I thought that the expansion of OEMs making more hardware devices would explode and would help. Microsoft's is continuing Nokia's own low end strategy, and you think, okay, we're going to go for the volume play and everything, but you know what? From a market share perspective, this hasn't helped in the slightest. Yeah, and that's a problem because there's nowhere to go from here. Once you've bet on this high volume, low margin type product, you can't turn it into a luxury brand. I mean, eventually you're just a Kia, or whatever, a Geo, you're never going to be a Lexus. No one's going to buy a Geo Lexus, or whatever. I didn't realize Geo doesn't exist anymore.
I would love a Geo Lexus.
Well, I mean, Hyundai's trying it, Genesis, whatever, but.
Yeah, and it's a killer when you go to a website and it says apps available, iOS, Android, Windows Phone coming soon. Oh, yeah. Coming soon. No idea when that's. By the
way, anyone who uses Windows Phone will have had this experience. Someone will see their device, especially if it's some kind of crazy Lumia device in a weird color, like a green or orange phone or something, and people will say, "Wow, what is that?" And you'll say, "Oh, very proudly, that's a Windows phone."
That's a Windows Phone.
And then they'll say, "Oh, they have Windows phones?"
Yeah.
I mean, people. There's no disdain for it. People just don't know about it.
You want to know?
It's not like I'm like, oh no, I'd never get one of those. They've never even heard of it.
I absolutely hate the name Windows Phone.
Yeah,
I like Windows Mobile better.
Yep,
and it kind of makes sense considering they're going to kind of merge everything into one, right?
I agree.
Wouldn't mobile be a better name for, let's say, your tablets?
Yep.
Yep.
So that's putting it out there. We'll see.
Absolutely hate it. I did too. But that was a good pick, Paul.
A little ranty. It's gonna get a little ranty.
No. It's fine. Listen, that's the whole point. It's the end of the year. We're angry. Paul's email's not working. I don't even know where I am or what day it is. I'm bloated from the vodka martinis I had yesterday. It's gonna be a ranty show. So my next pick, since we're on the phone topic, I'm gonna go with the Amazon Fire Phone, and because it could have been something. And the reason why I say that is because they had the opportunity, which they did later, and it was useless at that point. This thing was sold at a way too high of a price point. Way too high.
Yep.
What did they sell it at finally? It was like $199 unsubsidized?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. By the way, that comes with $99. I'm sorry, I should say Prime subscription, which I think is worth $99 a year.
Worth $99, yeah.
So you could say you're getting a high-end, mid-end, or mid-level phone, if you will, like not quite a flagship, but a pretty close to flagship quality phone for $99.
And you got it, right?
No contract. I did. It's a piece of crap.
Okay.
It is an awful device. It is terrible.
What makes it awful?
Everything.
Everything.
It is I think I used I equated it to Quick Burger was the way I described it.
Yeah. I saw that.
Quick Burger thing, right? So the short version is it's like someone saw a smartphone once and it went into a room and never connected to the outside world and said, we're going to build this thing. And then the engineer said, what was it like? And he says, well, and he kind of remembered it, but not really, but he never took any notes. And, it's goofy. So it's got, it's so wrong. It's sort of like the very first Kindle e-reader. It looked like it was designed by East Germany in the 1970s. It was all weird angles and
very
it was
sharp
too
edges.
expensive. And yeah. So, it's got glass on the front and the back. So it feels weird in your hand. You can feel the glass edges. And it's going to be smudgy all the time because you're touching glass on both sides of it. It's just stupid. The side material is made out of a nice rubberized, probably plastic or whatever, that feels nice. I mean, I think if the whole device had been made like that, it would have been good. But what kills it is the carousel UI and then the goofy stuff they added on top of it that you don't see on the Kindle tablets. And so the carousel UI makes, I don't like it personally, but
I'm not a fan
it makes some sense on like a tablet because you're going to be watching movies.
It also works on the TV, the Fire TV.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
Because it's the same thing. It's a consumption device. See, a phone, though, phone is different. A phone is a lot more about productivity, even if you don't think of yourself as a productivity type person. Because, phone calls, text messages, reading email, catching up on your calendar, all that stuff, it is horribly bad at that stuff. Horribly bad. Part of it is the Amazon Google ecosystem. Part of it, though, is just the user experience. It's terrible. But the goofiest thing, all those special features they added on top of it, you can tilt it in the air and menus pop in from the side. And on an Android device, you kind of swipe down from the top to bring down the notification center.
Yeah.
On this one, you flick it toward you in the air to bring down that.
You're doing this. You're fanning yourself.
It's stupid. And then on the side, there's like a text menu, and it uses that dynamic perspective.
Yeah.
So it's in 3D sort of, and it's like always a little blurry because it's got that weird effect. By the way, you can turn all this stuff off. You can turn it off, But it's just, even when you turn everything off, what you're left with is Amazon's stupid carousel UI. You can flick off of that to get to an app grid, like an icon grid. But it is a statement about the quality of Amazon's UI that an app grid, an icon grid, is in fact a superior UI to this piece of crap that they put on top.
How's the camera?
You know what? I have never even tested it. I can't get past how lousy this thing is. So I haven't even bothered. Because honestly, sometimes you get a device in and you write up your first impressions or whatever, and you feel like a little queasy about it. And then you realize it's not worth reviewing this. Like, it's just not. I don't want anyone to pull a positive comment out of an article I wrote about this thing and buy one. I really think that even given this price, because I know people are listening to this and like, but it's $99. You could bring it like overseas. It's unlocked. You could get a SIM. It's like you could. You know what? You could. Don't.
Yeah.
It is a terrible phone. That's terrible.
That's phone. Unbelievable.
Yeah. Sorry, I just.
I'm on your website right now. The Fire phone is like that. It's like some guy at Amazon said, "Hey, smartphones are popular. I saw a smartphone once. Let's make a smartphone based on this fleet experience." This fleeting experience. Oh my God. You know what my issue was? Forget about the crappiness, right? Like that stuff that could be forgiven with another version. Mm-hmm. And obviously the bar is set so low because of so many issues. The next one's going to come out and you're going to have all these bloggers saying, "Oh my God, did you guys know that there's an Amazon phone and it's great?" No
one has ever said that.
So no one has. No.
So
they had this opportunity to sell this thing at a price point that made sense to get people in there, and it failed because nobody bought this thing. I don't know what the numbers are. I don't think Amazon has really released numbers.
17, I think it was.
17 phones. I from what I remember, there was an article written Somebody had some information, and they had said they sold like 34,000.
Yeah.
It was abysmal. I mean, it was worthless how many they sold of these. But if they had put this thing at $199, I probably would have bought one. And I probably would have said it's a crappy experience, but I probably would have bought one. And many people would have bought one because it's Amazon and it's right there every time you go to their website. It's this giant thing that says Fire Phone.
That was the theory. If they had priced this accordingly at the time. Now, I think I always hold up the Nexus 5 as the kind of the standard for this, right? $350 unlocked for a high-end phone. It's, by the way, a year later, it's still a high-end phone. It's a nice phone. 5-inch screen, et cetera, et cetera. That's the standard. Amazon, as the pricing king, should be able to meet or exceed that standard. That makes no sense.
Yeah.
I'm sure they're just getting rid of inventory. This is not about, they're not making money at $99 a phone with Prime. This is, they're going to lose money on this. It's just a question of not losing all of the money. They're going to lose a little bit less than they might have otherwise. So there'll be a second version. I hope they fix some of the physical and the software-related problems that the devices have today. But there is no fixing this phone. It doesn't matter what they do to it. It will never be okay. I mean, the device itself is lousy. This is one of the worst products of the year.
I wonder if a lot of people see
mainstream products of the year.
I'm curious of the people that actually bought this thing and what their experience was with it.
But you'll never find out because no one bought one.
Nobody
well,
bought
maybe.
it, yeah.
Well, I mean, since it's come out cheaper, maybe. Yeah.
I'm curious on what it would be like the people who actually and who bought this.
You would have to have come from a country in which smartphones don't exist to be even slightly interested in this phone. There's no way. For example, let's say talking about aspirational devices, right? Let's say you've been looking at people's iPhones. You're like, oh man, I'd really love to be able to buy an iPhone. I don't have enough money to buy an iPhone or an on contract Android phone, a nice Android phone, and so you buy like a low end Android phone. You would have some semblance of that kind of experience on such a device because Android is Android, and you'd have apps and everything. It would be great. You're not going to get this experience on the Kindle, whatever it's called, the Fire Phone. You're just not. It's the app selection is bizarre. Some of the stuff is absolutely there. A lot of the stuff you really want is not there. None of the Google stuff is there. You can't get the Gmail app. You can't. Google Maps is not there. It's like its own little weird. It's France. Everything is weird.
Everything is weird.
The people look normal, but it's France. I don't know what to say. It's just
that's so
different.
Funny.
Yeah, it's just different.
All right, Paul. What do you have? What's number 2 on your list?
I feel like I just stole yours.
No, it's fine. You listen. It was fine
about Amazon's phone. I just think it's so
terrible.
terrible.
I like that.
So my second thing that was worst about 2014 was Surface Mini, which of course wasn't released, which is the problem. Surface Mini would not have been successful. The issue is a matter of timing, and of course that was based on Windows RT. If they could have delivered Surface Mini last fall, which by the way was the original plan, alongside Surface Pro 2 or whatever, Surface 2, that might have made an impact because at that time 7-inch, 8-inch Windows tablets were taking off. The whole mini tablet thing was happening. Microsoft worked last year to make Windows work better on such devices and so forth. But the Surface Mini, as originally envisioned, was an RT device. Microsoft is always busy to push this crazy platform that nobody wants, and it was canceled at the last minute. And I think the funniest thing, or I don't know, funny is maybe not the wrong word, the funny in the sense of oddest thing, is that Surface Pro 3 event that we went to back in May,
the one in New York.
Was not a Surface Pro 3 event. It was a Surface Mini event. The Surface Pro 3 at that time was a sideshow. It was basically an afterthought. It wasn't the big deal. And of course, they had to refocus it to be just on Surface Pro 3. And the irony to this, of course, is that Surface Pro 3 is a much better device than Surface Mini ever would have been. And in the sense that it has attracted a market for itself and answers a real need, The Surface Mini kind of answered a fake need, which was Microsoft needs to make a mini tablet. The Surface Pro 3 addressed a lot of very real problems with earlier Surface Pros. It's been just broadly embraced across Microsoft's most important customer base, businesses. Business users love this thing. You pop it in a bag and you go on a trip. You don't even notice it in there. The weight is so thin, and it's such a great device. It's the screen for me personally a little small. The keyboard, little small. I kind of wish for a bigger version, like more of an ultrabook type of thing. But that's just me. The Surface Pro 3 has taken off in a very big way, and it's been a big success. So that's not on the list. Surface Mini, it's one of those things. In the enthusiast world, we're all very interested. We want to know more. We want to see pictures of it. We want to know what it was like. Why did they do it and all that stuff. It's all very interesting. But the truth is, this thing would have been a frickin' disaster. It would have been Zune 2.0 or whatever. So they were right not to do it. I do think they should make a mini tablet. I think it should be based on x86, not on RT or on ARM. And maybe they will, with Windows 10.
So where are all these Surface Minis?
Some people at Microsoft have them. I've seen it. It exists. It's real. People seem to be goofy about that. They
because
don't really
it was made. It was done.
They manufactured it.
Yeah.
So there's there are boxes of these things sitting around. And at some time there was a thought, well, maybe they will eventually release it. But the more that time went by, and now of course it's completely untenable. It was already previous generation ARM technology. It was if they had released it last year, it would have been right on the leading edge of what was available, for ARM at the time. It makes no sense today. No sense at all.
It's buried somewhere.
Yeah, there was no keyboard for it. There was and there was no kickstand built in. There was a case they were selling. I don't know if they sold it or were going to sell it or if it came with it, but there was a case, different colors. So it must have been separate, actually. This is different color cases. And, the kickstand was built into that, and there was no keyboard planned at the time.
Yeah, that was a bizarre day. I remember that because everybody's saying it's the Mini, and there was no Mini.
Well, it was the Mini.
Yeah, and it didn't show up.
And all the stuff, I got a ton of information about this device from some sources, and one of them at the end, right before the event, said, "Oh, and there's going to be a larger Surface Pro too," and I wrote a Surface Pro also,
yeah.
And I wrote him back, and I said, "Really?" I said, "Okay, now that's interesting," and he's like, "Yeah, it's no big deal. It's just it's exactly what you think it is, just a bigger Surface Pro."
Is there any information as far as the direction of the next Surface?
That's just, so the Surface people will be very happy to hear. I've heard absolutely nothing about next gen Surfaces. Some of the previous gens, I had gotten lots and lots of leaks. I have heard nothing about next gen Surface. I mean, the one thing I'll say, just because they said this publicly, is that they've committed that at least one next gen Surface Pro will work with the existing dock, and the dock is, you can't. Well, I mean, I guess you could. I don't see any way it couldn't be anything other than the exact same size. And so I think the thing you could look for a Surface Pro at least would be a Surface Pro 4 that is the same form factor with an upgraded chipset, and all the the internals could be completely different except for the where the ports would be and so forth.
I mean, it's a great feeling device. I'll tell you that. It feels good.
It is. It's a super high quality device.
Yeah. Yeah. So my another one on my list is Apple TV because we have not seen a new one yet. We haven't seen an upgraded one yet. It's been quite some time. I can't even think. When was the last time it came out? Like almost 2 years ago?
I bet it's more than 2 years ago.
When was the last update?
I'll look it up.
Yeah.
But it's been a long time.
And I'll tell you why. I was late to the whole Apple TV thing, right? Like I had Roku, I had a Google TV. It was plenty for me. It didn't matter because all I was doing was watching Netflix, and that was it. I ordered an Apple TV because I got rid of I got fed up with the Google TV connector, so I got an Apple TV, and it was fine. Like, it's okay. Like, it's a little slow, but it had everything I needed on it, and I was okay with it until I got the Fire TV, and then I want to talk to you about that. By the way, yeah. We'll go to that. I had to disconnect the Apple TV and send it away. It's way too slow. I mean, just
but you're stuck, right? If you have Apple content, I mean, I wouldn't say get Netflix and Hulu and stuff like that, but if if you have any content on Apple, what are you gonna do?
Yeah, you're done. So I don't have a lot of content on Apple. I don't buy movies. I mean, I do rent them, but the rental goes away after a while. So I technically have no content on Apple TV.
You can rent movies from anywhere. That doesn't matter.
You can rent movies anywhere. It's actually cheaper on Apple TV. I rented a movie on...
Oh, is it really?
Yeah, it's... I didn't see an option to rent on Amazon. It was like buy. I don't know if you could rent on Amazon.
No, you can.
You can? Okay. Yeah. Maybe I'm an idiot and I didn't see it. But
no, well, it might vary by movie too. Remember,
Okay. So
different deals. So
the experience of going from one to the other, it's so slow on Apple TV to just navigate. It was enough for me to say, you know what, I'm going to stick
and that
to the
stupid lousy remote they have. It's so small you can't even hold it comfortably in your hand.
and
It's
it doesn't work
to get
well.
to options like if you want to turn on captions, right? You first of all you have to know this. There's no indication on screen that this would ever do anything. You have to like press and hold on this thing, and then you get to a menu that has all of the chapters in the movie, and you have to like page over to it. It's like it's ponderous because I can't put a freaking button on the remote because God forbid that this thing have anything other than like a monolith from 2001 look to it. Like it can't have more than 2 buttons on it or whatever. That stuff drives me nuts, and that's something that everyone else does right. And Roku, Amazon, whatever. There's a menu button that brings up its captions on off.
It's also, what it is? Apple's UI is really weird with Netflix. I could deal with everything else, but the Netflix UI is so bare bones. Like you can't. The sorting is bizarre for me, and I can't get the hang of it.
Yep.
It has its own thing, and I never really liked the look of it. So I went to the Amazon box, and I like it. Listen, a lot of people don't like the Amazon box. They say the audio's not that great out of it. One of our Twitter followers, he knows a lot about like the black levels of these devices, and he says that the Amazon one is not so great. I haven't really noticed them, but maybe I'm not looking to see it. I think the picture quality is pretty much the same all around all of them for me. I haven't really used the Roku as much, so I can't tell you how good the Roku one is because it's in the other room. But for me, I had a difficult time going back to the Apple TV, and it's just interesting to me that they haven't decided to upgrade this thing, upgrade the UI, upgrade the hardware, and this thing would be a beast.
This device debuted in March 2012, so it's almost 3 years ago.
Almost 3 years ago.
That's a long time.
Do you know what have they said? Why they're not continuing
they never talk
this?
About it. Every once in a while there'll be a rumor before some Apple show. This time we're going to see the new Apple TV. Obviously there will be one eventually, and it will be a huge difference because 3 years in that kind of electronics is going to make a big.
Listen,
big
the worth
difference.
maybe the wait may be worth it if they put a quad core in this thing. They're putting the iPhone chipset in there, and you're going to be able to play your games. It seems like they have fallen really behind when it comes to this technology. And everybody's doing it now. Everybody has a controller for gaming. You could play the game on there. You get a controller. Roku's not doing it. Amazon is doing it. Google's doing it right now, which nobody has a Google box, and that's another thing I should add to the list. That Nexus player is an utter disappointment because it came out way too late.
Yeah.
I don't know anybody with it.
It just doesn't matter.
Isn't that fascinating? Did you get it? No.
I see no reason for it.
And that's nutty, right? Because Google's a major player in this game. Google TV was a big deal.
I bought a Fire Phone, but I didn't buy that. That'll just give you an idea of how I consider it. I just don't see the point.
It's virtually, it does not exist, this device. Now, one person, and I know many people in the tech world, journalists, writers, bloggers, podcasters, none of them have it.
Right.
And these were people that were yelling and screaming a year and a half ago that Google needs to put out a set-top box.
I think they do. I just don't. Yeah, I don't get it.
That's another one to the list.
Yeah. By the way, you had mentioned a show or two ago. You were talking about the Fire TV stick. Oh no, you were talking Fire TV.
Well, I got the Fire TV stick. I have not hooked it up yet.
Okay. So, I have it right, and I had been using a Roku. My old Roku was behind me on this machine. I put the Roku streaming stick on there. Really disappointing how slow it is. It's the type of thing when you wake up and, when you kind of wake it up and use it after you haven't used it for a while, the button clicks all, happen really quick at the end, minutes later. And it's just, the performance is really terrible. And so after talking to you about Fire TV, I put the Fire TV stick on here. And you know what? That thing is fantastic. I wish it had everything that Roku has. I kind of wish it looked like Roku and had the same channels or whatever. But just from a performance perspective, the Fire TV stick is not even comparable to the Roku one. It's much faster, much faster.
And by the way, the Nexus box does not have the WWE Network on there, so I'm not going to buy it.
Yep.
I want to watch old Mid-South wrestling. Paul, from the 70s and 80s. And overanalyze these half-naked men.
Like the guys who used to put like the razor blades between their fingers so they could,
Yeah, it's called gigging. That's what they call it. They get gigged in the head. I know way too much about cutting yourself in the head as a wrestler. This is what I do, Paul. I talk about technology, and then I talk about professional wrestling after.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm the everyman. So, I mean, Nexus is another one. I really hope this is the year we get to see an Apple TV that's updated and it's pretty and it's everything you want it to be, and it's $99 and it kicks everybody's ass.
I can't believe they didn't release that for that and the new iPods. I wonder if that will happen at the same time. There's been some rumors lately now looking at spring for new iPods, but an iPhone 6 based iPod and maybe an iPhone 6 based Apple TV. They could have made a killing over Christmas on those devices, I think. But
I got a question for you, Paul. I know with the newer iPhones, like let's say I have an iPhone 5 and it's from AT&T. I could easily bring that over to Verizon, right? No.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're talking. No, you still can't do that.
I still can't do that.
What was no, it's iPads. The iPads have a multi-radio interface, so you can switch the LTE cards out of those. You can't do that with the phones. That's my understanding.
You can't do that
because when you go and buy one today, like if you go to applestore.com, compare the choices between iPad and iPhone. And on iPhone, you still have to go through, like I want it on AT&T, I want it on T-Mobile, I want it on Verizon, whatever. But when you go to iPad, I'm going to look at it right now to make sure this is true. If you want an LTE version.
I thought I could with the iPhone. Anybody in the chat knows because...
No, you can't. Maybe you can. I don't know. I don't believe you can. But if you look at iPad, there are no carrier choices like there used to be. You get Wi-Fi or you get Wi-Fi plus cellular. And the cellular is multiple networks.
Interesting. Okay. Then I'm wrong.
It might just be... Well, no, I could see... You can understand why that would be confusing, right?
I thought it's different. I thought it's one radio that does everything on the iPhones.
Well, let's see. So you're saying, in other words, even though you have to choose it at the beginning, that once the contract's paid off and it's unlocked, you could actually bring it from AT&T to Verizon.
Yeah. So if let's say, my brother has an iPhone 5S and he gives it to me. He's like, here you go. I don't want it anymore. I got a new one.
Well, it would have to be unlocked. I mean, in other words, the carrier would have to.
I could unlock it though, right?
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Am I right?
So I don't know. Well, no, it does. Okay, that's interesting. It does say it has more LTA band, but I don't know that that's about carrier portability. The problem with these devices is that essentially the carriers sell them, right? AT&T doesn't want to sell a phone that you could bring to Verizon. I could be completely wrong, but I have a feeling that what this is about is just compatibility, like network compatibility for people who are roaming, not about portability across carriers. I mean, if somebody knows differently, say it.
Yeah. I'm sure we'll get a bunch of emails saying like, yes, you can, or no, you can't. But
I don't think you can.
I could have swore you could.
The way they describe it says iPhone 6 has up to 20 LTE bands, 7 more than iPhone 5S, more than any other smartphone. And what that means is iPhone users can connect to more high-speed LTE networks in more places. When you're traveling, more LTE bands help you benefit from the growing number of roaming agreements around the world. I don't think it's about portability. It seems like they would mention. Well, I mean, I know they're protecting their partners. I don't think that's what it's about.
Verizon. Let's see if this is possible. Understanding the iPhone 5C, 5S, all-in-one, AT&T, T-Mobile, switching characters. You may be able to take your 5S. You can and you can't. It's like a weird thing.
Well,
you know what?
No, but
you got to unlock it. You got to get it unlocked, and then you can.
That's not AT&T to Verizon. Those are different kinds of networks. Like, well, I see what you're saying because it would have both.
Yeah.
I don't think so. I don't think so. Obviously, if you had an unlocked AT&T iPhone, you could bring it to T-Mobile, and get lower speeds.
Okay, so you can't do it. The answer is no. I just looked it up.
That's what I thought.
Okay. You can't do it.
But when you first said that, I had to really think about it because I know they talked about this, but it's the iPad, not the iPhone.
Yeah, I think that's what confused me as well. All right, Paul, what do you have on your list?
Well, a lot of this is Windows Phone related, so I guess I'll just go to the next one, which is that there are no... So Microsoft releases software updates for Windows Phone. A lot of people don't know that because they never get them. And the reason they don't get them is because their wireless carrier doesn't ever unleash them on their customers. The reason they do that, I think, is because they want to sell you a new phone. and it kind of sucks. And so through the developer preview program that Microsoft has, which is free, anyone could do it. Anyone could upgrade to newer versions of Windows Phone, which is kind of neat. But what they don't get is the firmware updates. Those are still locked into the carrier system. The reason this is a problem is that back in April, Microsoft released Windows Phone 8.1, and Nokia released their Cyan firmware update for their Lumia phones at the time. You know, Nokia was still making them. These things were kind of tied together. Over the course of the summer, some companies started releasing the updates, and some didn't. Verizon in particular, nothing. Complete silence on Verizon's part. And then in the fall, Microsoft released Windows Phone 8.1 Update 1, and now Microsoft also released the firmware update called Denim for their Lumia devices. Now this week, Denim is starting to head out to carriers for them to give to their customers. Likewise, they'll get Windows Phone 8.1 Update 1. So now we get the Verizon guys. They still don't have Cyan. They still don't have 8.1. And now what they're hearing about is the next rev of updates, which they're not going to get because they still don't have these other ones either. And this is a bad situation. And so for the general consumer, honestly, I don't think it's a huge deal. There are major improvements when you go to Windows Phone 8.1. I mean, but anyone, if they wanted to get it, could get it. The firmware updates are a little murkier because no one really even reveals exactly what the feature list is there. But we hear vaguely about camera improvements, including some performance improvements, which per our previous discussion would be a big deal. I think the thing that would solve this problem for everybody would be if Microsoft would simply make these updates available to users, if only through the developer program, regardless of carriers, and that the carriers are the problem. And so you kind of have a worst case situation. You've got carriers that never do well, never do the right thing. And we're running the minority smartphone platform. And so they're even less behooved to do anything for us because, who cares? We're a very minor part of their portfolio anyway. And so it's like it's the worst of both worlds. And Windows Phone users, it stinks because people who use this system tend to be very enthusiastic about it. We don't have a lot of casual users like you might have on an iPhone or something.
People buying it and they know what they're buying.
They know what they're buying. They want it. And a lot of them are educated about what's going on in the world, and they want those updates. And if you're on Verizon in particular, Verizon's probably the worst one. It's not happening. And so hopefully in 2015 we get some good news there. What I'd like to see is Verizon actually make the whole suite of updates available at one time, which they could do. Release 8.1 in Cyan, reboot 8.1 Update 1 and Denim, and get everyone up to date. Because honestly, right now it's like a giant middle finger extended to the Windows Phone community. It's too bad.
So next on my list, is this number 4 or 5? I think I'm at 5.
Okay.
And this is a personal issue for me.
It sure is.
It's really it's become a sickness. The fact that we have not gotten a better MacBook Pro, something with a little bit of a thinner bezel, maybe.
Okay, thank you. I was going to say there's a word missing.
Yeah.
And that word is bezel.
It's not necessarily the bezel that's my problem. So I like the 13-inch form factor of this laptop. I don't want a 15-inch. By the way,
the 13-inch version could fit a 14-inch screen.
It can. It definitely can.
There's like an inch of bezel on every side.
Yeah.
What is this? I mean,
it can. The issue I have I need a new MacBook Pro at this point. This thing is old. It's a 2011.
Yeah.
It's a dual core. The problem is, even though it's an i7, the i7 13-inch does not come in a quad core. Did you know that, Paul?
No.
Does not exist. And it seems like most laptops that are 13-inch do not come in a quad core. Even though it's an i7, it's a dual core i7. Listen, I'm assuming this has to do with heating and fans and all that stuff, but I'm a little disappointed that we have not gotten a quad-core i7 in these 13-inch MacBooks. I'm waiting. I'm going to wait. I'm going to see what happens. And this is going to be the year that I buy something, and it may not be a Mac if I don't get a quad-core i7 in a 13-inch form factor or a 14-inch form factor, whatever. That's my issue with this. But isn't it weird? I mean, that's a weird little thing, right? That you can't get that.
So,
And I didn't know it was like a big deal. The only ones that you could get are like gaming machines with a quad-core i7.
okay.
So it's not really Apple, but you know, I thought Apple could do magic. I thought that's what they do. They make things happen. Am I wrong?
Right. No, you're not wrong.
They just snap their fingers and here you go, an innovative design, an innovative product. Ryder and I chimed and goes, Andrew, 2 cores doesn't make you a lesser man.
Nice.
Yeah. That's my issue with this. I'm hopeful that we're going to start seeing some quad-core i7s with this new chipset that they have inside of these smaller laptops, these 13-inch form factor, 14-inch form factor laptops, because I really need a on-the-go laptop that I could use for production. Because I'm starting to do some remote stuff, and it's very difficult to do that when your CPU is maxing out at 100%. So, a little bit of a problem here, right? That's my little issue with this. I know people are going to message me and say, the technology's not there. Well, listen, Apple could do whatever they want. They came up with the iPhone.
Okay, yeah.
They invented the smartphone and the tablet.
Sure.
Paul. I don't know if you know that.
Reinvented.
No, invented. It did not exist. Reimagined, that's it. They reimagined.
Yeah.
Can we just reimagine?
It's like a tablet, but with unicorns.
Yeah. You know what? It kind of was, right? Kind of was.
Sure.
That first iPad, when that thing came out, geez. That thing was not that great, but the second one was phenomenal. What do you have, Paul?
It's just a lot of complaints. Microsoft this year moved from devices and services to mobile first, cloud first. And they then set out to release a ton of mobile apps on rival platforms, Office for iPad being maybe the big example. But there's a lot more than that. And one of the things that enthusiasts of the Windows stuff and Microsoft in general have noticed is that Microsoft is putting this stuff out first on other platforms, and they're making it better on other platforms in many cases. And the list of how they do that is maybe too long to get through in any detail. But I think a lot of people are waking up to the fact that mobile first, cloud first means Windows last. It used to be Windows first or Windows only, and the strategy has completely reversed itself. So it's pragmatic and it's understandable, and I get it. And I've defended it in the sense that it's pragmatic, that I understand from a business perspective. Microsoft is not a charity. Windows is not going to be the primary computing platform of the future. It just isn't. Sorry. It doesn't mean it's not an interesting and compelling platform. It doesn't mean it's not going to be popular. It just means that it's not going to be the mass market platform. Android is. There could come a day, a couple of years, that even iOS surpasses Windows usage. We'll see how that goes. But for now, the best they can look at is number 2. And that forces them to be a lot more pragmatic about where they put things. But, I'm a Windows enthusiast. I really like Windows. I really prefer Windows. I like what Microsoft does with Office and Skype and all their consumer services and all that stuff, and I get it. And I get why that stuff needs to be on other platforms. But I don't understand how they can keep doing this. I think it's inexcusable for them to release Office on iPad before they release a similar Office on Windows touch devices. I just think it's inexcusable. And I hope that once they've gotten over this, that once the portfolio has filled out, that in 2015, it goes back to the way it should be, which is at the very least simultaneous upgrades, same feature set, cross platforms. Not, we'll get to Windows later. Because if they keep doing this, they're going to accelerate the decline in Windows usage. And that's it's the same problem with the lack of Lumia flagship thing. Really what it comes down to is you're harming people that care about the platform and advocate for you. And that when you do that, you end up accelerating the exodus from the platform. Windows is never going to overtake Android. But man, it's never going to come close if you keep stabbing us all in the heart like this. And it's a problem. And so I would just say for 2014, it's a disappointment, but I get it. They can't do this again. If they spend 2015 doing the same thing, they have effectively just killed Windows, and that's a problem. So I hope they don't do that.
You want to go into the next one that you had? Windows 10 is taking too long.
Yeah, and that's tied to what I just said.
Yeah.
Actually, this is something. I talk about stuff like this, and people are always like, "Oh, Paul, they got to get it right," and blah blah blah. Yeah, that's cute. Except they don't have to get it right. That's the thing. They really don't. And getting it right is a big subject that has nothing to do with getting Windows 10 on PCs out like now. Windows 10 is not Windows 10. It's Windows 8.2 when you're looking at PCs and tablets. This is something they could ship quick. They're not, because they're doing this big simultaneous release across platforms. I think they should stage that release across platforms and get it out quick. Because right now, people still, even though Windows 8.1 is actually really good, and people don't kind of get that. People look at Windows 8 in general and they say, I can't use this. I'm not going to use this. And that takes Windows devices out of contention.
Yeah.
They're letting another holiday season go by without having anything compelling, except, well, look, we have cheap prices, and here's a free version of Office 365. This is not a long-term strategy. This is too long. This time next year to ship a new version of Windows is too long. That's 3 years. That's how long Windows always took. That's not rapid release. It's too long.
Well, weren't the rumors that it was going to come out in April?
Office.
Wasn't that the rumor?
It wasn't a rumor. That was literally the original plan. Because remember, back then it was going to be called Windows 9, and it was literally Windows 8.2. The amount of time between Windows 8.1 and Windows 8.2 was going to be 1 year. That was the amount of time that Windows 8.1 took. That is exactly the amount of time this thing should have taken. This is too long.
Why?
Because they're doing more than they were going to do originally.
Well, they're cutting it close to back to school also again.
They're not cutting it close. They're missing it.
They're missing it. It's going to be August, right?
Which is also stupid.
Yeah.
No, it's going to be September, October.
Oh, it's going to be September, October.
By the way, back to school is in June.
Yeah.
It's not in August. It's not in September. When you're selling computers and stuff for people to bring to school, they're buying them in June and July. They're buying them over the summer.
They've been doing this every single year, notoriously.
Yep. They've never hit back to school.
No, never.
And in the past, you could kind of excuse it by saying, well, they sell to businesses and whatever. And these things will go on new PCs. And they'll be there for the holiday season, that kind of stuff. That's nice. But PCs are now actually just productivity devices. Nobody is buying a PC so they can, browse the web and look at Facebook and play games. That's not what normal people are doing. They have tablets for that. They have smartphones for that. PCs are for productivity tasks. PCs, by the way, students, right? And you know what will be in the market in time for back to school next year? Chromebooks. So they're making, this kind of stuff drives me nuts.
Tons of $199 Chromebooks that look pretty and,
So
and
whatever.
That's
this is a frustrating thing for me because I know that this could, they've made strategy decisions that have basically impacted the schedule. Originally, the start menu was going to debut this past summer. It would have already been out.
Yeah,
we would have had it on Windows 8 point whatever. We would have probably called it 8.2 or whatever. Well, no, we're going to hold it off to the next version of Windows now. No, we're going to hold off the next version of Office Mobile, or whatever they're going to call it, Office Touch, the first version of Office Touch,
well, I mean,
until
technically,
Windows 10 ships.
I mean, they were on track. They just killed the next version of Windows, and they went to the next one. That's what they did.
Listen, I think Windows. It doesn't matter when it ships in a way, from the sense that it's going to be a high quality release. But again, this is just an important release. Something that will keep people in the PC fold and all that kind of stuff. But I really, back to school is a big deal, and it's something they've never done right. I can't believe they have never done this right, and they're going to do it again. And I can't believe it. This is. It's amazing to me. I just can't believe they're not going to do this.
What's interesting to me is that how many people don't even know that Windows 10 is a thing that's going to happen. I'm thinking they're banking on the branding to be, oh crap, I got a laptop. It has Windows 8. This thing is 2 versions behind, or it's old. Like they want that old factor to be kicked in, where you're thinking, okay, it's old. I got to go buy a new one.
Yeah. I don't know.
It's a weird thing with this. And then one more thing on your list, and we're going to do our after show. By the way, guys, we're running out of time, so we're going to do our after show. Sometimes cheap is just cheap.
Yeah, interestingly, I've been alluding to this over the course of this show anyway, and it's just that there are good devices you can get inexpensively this year, for Windows. $99 HP Stream tablet, fantastic. $200 HP Stream 11 laptop, excellent. You got to be really careful when you look at this stuff because some of this stuff is just cheap crap. And some of these devices, like $99 Toshiba Encore Mini or the Nokia Lumia 530, which is the most awful phone Nokia has ever put out. It's an absolute piece of garbage, which is amazing because virtually everything else they make is fantastic. You want to be careful because I think sometimes, when you're in the rush to save money and everything, you end up buying something that has a terrible screen, which, by the way, both of these things do. I'm actually convinced that using these screens will hurt your eyesight on both of these devices. You should never buy either one of these devices. If you have $99 to spend on a tablet, get that HP Stream 7. It's fantastic. If you're going to buy a no-contract phone for under $100, you're going to have to shop around. But it starts with the 630 and the 635. You don't get a 530. It's a piece of garbage. A Lumia 535, which is not available in the US right now, assuming it's in that price range. That's a great choice for under $100. Do not buy a 530. A terrible, terrible, terrible phone. Did I say it was terrible? Because it's terrible.
Are you sure?
It's garbage.
How much is the Toshiba right now? The Encore.
It was $129 when it debuted. I assume you could probably get it for $99 these days. In fact, it must be $129 because I think Microsoft had it on sale as part of their 12 days of deals.
Yeah.
I want to say it was $99 at that time. I'm talking about the 7-inch version because there is an 8-inch version as well. Yeah, I'm sorry. Excuse me. They have it for $79.90 and $79 right now at the Microsoft Store.
Wow, that's cheap.
Do not buy it. I don't care.
Don't buy it.
Don't buy it. It's garbage. Spend $20 more. You will love the screen. Here's the problem on the Toshiba. It's actually 1024 by 600 resolution. That is below the minimum resolution to display modern apps in Windows. So how do they get around that limitation? They scale the screen. So the OS fools apps into thinking they're running at 1280 by 768, I think it is, which means that text looks like garbage because it's always, it's all stretched out and it's terrible. Do not buy this device. I cannot stress this enough how bad this is.
You heard it from
Terrible
Paul.
Device.
Listen to Paul, guys. I think everybody should listen to Paul. All right, time to wrap it up, guys. This was the worst of. It wasn't as bad as we thought it would be. Actually, it was worse than I thought this would be.
There's always stuff to talk about. No, but I think the important point is don't let this bad stuff that we've listed cast a shadow over the fact that, honestly, we'll do a best of,
Yeah.
There's been a ton of really good stuff that happened this year.
Great stuff. Yeah. Great stuff. And next week, I think we're doing the best. And next Tuesday, we're back, right? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. 23rd. Yeah. Okay, perfect. We're going to be back next week with the best of. Guys, if you want to follow us on Twitter, you can follow me at Andrew Zarian. You can follow Paul at The Rot. GFQ Network also on Twitter. You could catch the show on winsupersat.com. It's archived there. Podcasts, everywhere podcasts are available. And, of course, on our website, gfqnetwork.com. You can get it there. Use our Amazon affiliate link at the GFQ Network. You want to help us out, go to gfq.co/Amazon. Bookmark it whenever you buy something. You get a tiny little credit and helps us out whenever we need to do upgrades to the studio. Like when I need to get my mythical bezel-less quad-core Mac. You guys will be buying me this thing. Stay tuned. We're doing the after show. If you want to support us, you go to patreon.com/whatthetech. You can fund us there. You could give us anything. We'll accept it. And we'll see you all next week on What the Tech. Bye-bye for now.